Hello and welcome to the first edition of Talk Business with Thriving. My name is Omegi Okoyomo and I'll be your host today. Thank you so much for joining us from wherever you're joining us, whether you're in South Africa, in Nigeria, or in any other part of Africa. We're very excited to have you here, especially because it's Mandela Day. Happy Mandela Day, everybody. Congratulations on yet another year of having a chance to serve your community. And if you haven't found some 67 minutes today to try to make impact in somebody's life, we'll try to invite you to do that as soon as possible. Mandela Day is special to us because it's an opportunity for us to celebrate the life and times of Nelson Mandela, who made such an impact on the entire continent as a whole. For us, it's an important opportunity for everybody to reflect on their own individual impact on their small communities, their country, and the larger African community. For us, it's important that every African takes this opportunity to look within themselves, to ask, what am I doing for Africa today? As part of the conversation, we would like to introduce you to one project that we're very excited about, hosted by Divine Mahara, a gifted young singer. It's called Drive-by Jukebox, and the aim of this project is to reach out to underprivileged communities and bring them the gift of music. Today on Mandela Day, Divine has released a new song designed to inspire and empower us as Africans. I hope you enjoy this beautiful song by Divine.
For the first time in South Africa, a live performance mid-flight at 30,000 feet. To kick off this groundbreaking innovation is 27-year-old Divine Mahara. This is also the former Zimbabwe's Got Talent winner's first ride on a plane ever. Life is a journey. We are all travelers. Good wonder, the boy, here I have been traveling. Life is a journey. We are still travelers. Good bandito and I go, we're all still travelers. Kana go mayoría na soltera.
There's my sound is echoing. Was my sound echoing for you?
Kana go mayoría na soltera. Toda ipira come na soltera. When you wanna go one break a leg, my friend. Can I go my yorita? Not so life is a journey. Yeah, we are all travelers. Good wonder, the go. Here I have been traveling. For life is a journey. We are still traveling. Good bandito and I go, we're all still traveling. Kana go mayoría na soltera. Ahora y mira con la soltera. When you wanna go one break a leg, my friend. Kana go mayoría na soltera. Kana go mayoría na soltera. Ahora y mira con la soltera. When you wanna go one break a leg, my friend. Kana go mayoría na soltera. I have been traveling. We're still on traveling. I have been traveling.
Thank you for watching the video by Divine Mahara. And we're happy to share with you just a little bit of information about Mandela Day because we're also very conscious of all our viewers from different parts of Africa. But before we move on into the meat of today's event, meeting Sizwe and talking about building businesses that serve the community, we'll tell you a little bit about who we are as Thrive in Africa. Thrive in Africa is an organization that has been born out of a need to support Africa's wide, teeming numbers of young and growing entrepreneurs. The continent is filled with so much talent and so much inspired action towards building businesses, growing the economy, and creating new frontiers for growth and development. Unfortunately, there are many challenges that face Africa's entrepreneurs, and these challenges cannot be overcome without a lot of intentional and consistent efforts on the part of individuals who care, which is the reason behind the development and building of Thriving Africa. Thriving Africa, as the name implies, is an organization that is focused on helping Africa as an entire continent to thrive by helping the engine of the continent, the entrepreneurs, to find their feet and to grow in an often hostile environment. Our goal is to help entrepreneurs build capacity by training them with all sorts of awesome resources, all curated from the best of those who have done the impossible and built successful businesses on the continent, as well as providing support in terms of advisory, mentorship, and other services. Our goal is to make sure that all of these services are accessible and easily affordable for all of these entrepreneurs, which is why one of our biggest goals as an organization is to fight unemployment. That is a big worry for us. It is one of our biggest problems that we hope to overcome. And we'd like to solicit your support through events like this and other activities that you will come to see as you follow our journey. Our goal is in the next couple of years to have seen a very clear decline in the number of people who wish to start businesses but don't know how, who started businesses but are losing their footing, or who don't even know what it is to start a business. Our goal is to be the engine that powers the next wave of Africa's most successful entrepreneurs. Thank you for being here with us today. We hope that you will join us on this journey and support us in all the different ways that we would invite you to. And now, we're moving on to the topic of today's live stream, building businesses that serve the community. A very simple topic, but with so much nuance and so much depth and so much to think about. In order to fully bring this topic to the hearts of all who are listening, we have gone out of our way to look for an individual who has made this happen in his own special way. Our guest speaker today doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the talk. He has made this specific activity happen within his own space in special and very interesting ways. I'm not going to tell all of Sizwe's story. I'm going to let him tell his story to you in his own words. But in the meantime, I'm going to introduce Sizwe to you. So who is Sizwe Nzima? Sizwe is the founder of Iyeza Health, which is a specialist health company that is committed to changing the face of public health in South Africa. They offer accessible alternatives to the current status in the health products distribution and supply chain. Sizwe makes it easy for people to get access to very important, very necessary drugs and other health needs. Sizwe, at the beginning of his journey, used a single bicycle to deliver chronic medication to his grandmother's home. After spotting a very desperate need for this kind of service within his wider community, he started a bicycle courier service called Iyeza Express. And from there, he has been delivering life-saving prescription medication throughout Kailitsa. Iyeza means both medicine and it is coming in Hosa. Now, as Iyeza Health, the company fulfills this promise by delivering life-saving medication and helping to maintain the health of those with lifelong illnesses like hypertension and diabetes. His organization is currently funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation as they continue to expand and to ease access to healthcare in South Africa and across Africa. I'm sure listening to this, you would agree with me that Sizwe is one young man whose story is important to tell. So I'm going to welcome him now to join me. And begin his presentation. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Sizwe.
Hi, Ome. It's a great pleasure. Thank you very much.
We do not take your presence for granted and the time that you've given, especially considering the fact that today is Mandela Day. And you look really dapper. Your suit is beautiful.
Thank you very much. I tried to look the best. I tried to look the best. But yeah. No, thank you very much.
Yeah, you do.
To Thriving Africa for extending this invitation to me, and to come in and share my journey, as well as share some of my insights and stories on how we as young people in society can build businesses that not only make money but also serve a good common cause in our society.
As you all can see, Sizwe is very excited to get started on this conversation. So I'm going to step back now and let Sizwe take the stage. And as soon as he's done with his presentation, we'll be back to ask him some pertinent questions that have come in from some of those who knew we're going to be asking this, having this conversation, and wanted to ask him specific questions. So we'll have a chance to have a very long, very in-depth Q&A with Sizwe. But first, we'll let him take the time to tell us his own story in his own words.
Thank you, Omar. And gentlemen, thank you for everyone for tuning in into this program. As I said again, thank you to Thriving Africa for giving me this opportunity to come and present. Today is a very special day, especially to us South Africans, but around the globe also. Today is Mandela Day. It is the 18th of July, and it is a very powerful day because it resembles and it's a day where we honor our late former president Nelson Mandela, as Omi puts it, and may his soul rest in peace. On this day, we like to sort of honor him in his event, or to follow in his events that he has done around the world. We know he's a Nobel Prize winner. We know he's done some positive change. So the whole sort of motive around today is to bring about positive change, serving your community and doing good in your community, and serving those 67 minutes by just doing something that will change people's lives. So today is a really special day. But moving forward into the topic of the day, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sizwe Nzima, as Omi puts it. I'm born and bred in South Africa, and I've grown up in a small township called Khayelitsha. It is now the second biggest township in South Africa, second to Soweto. And today I'll just be briefly sharing to you my story, how I got to start my business, Iyeza, as well as some of the insights on what it takes to start a business that serves the community. Sizwe Nzima, I'm 29 years old. Just to give you a brief about me and myself, I'm 29 years old. I currently still live in Cape Town. I grew up with my grandparents, and I was raised by my grandparents. My mom lived up in Johannesburg. She worked to provide for the family, and I went to school in Khayelitsha, and I grew up most of my life in Khayelitsha. So I saw and I've experienced and I have first-hand experience of some of the problems that we're going to be discussing today, and some of the common problems that we see in our everyday lives that we encounter when living under difficult conditions and while living in disadvantaged communities. So let's take a look at what are the key what are the common problems that we've seen around the world, and let us dissect them to understand how can we build these businesses to tackle and sort of talk to these problems. So if we look at the core key problems in Africa, we know that the world is facing daunting problems, and these problems are not the same problems that we experienced in the 19th century. So the problems we experienced in the 19th century are totally different to the problems that we experience in the 21st century. And these problems will not or require or sort of need the same solutions we applied back in the days, because they won't be sufficient, because the world has changed and the time have changed. So we look at COVID. Let's look at COVID. COVID-19 has been the biggest hitter around the world. It has affected economies. It has affected lives. People have lost loved ones, family members, and we're still struggling as today with this pandemic and trying to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic. So it has become a world changer in our lives. It has affected our lives drastically. The second point we look at, education, especially with the low quality of education in Africa. Education has been a problem in Africa, and that has resulted us into finding it difficult to compete with other countries, and also to compete on a higher level scale with other countries And also, low quality of education resulting to the third point, which we're going to be discussing, high rate of unemployment. In Africa, especially in South Africa, just to give you an example, South Africa has a 46.2 youth unemployment rate. Before that, it was 32.8% before COVID. So low quality education will result into youth unemployment not getting jobs, and that will slowly increase the gaps, and we're going to see more social and economic problems such as poverty, lack of sanitation, lack of access to healthcare, and many others. So these are the common key problems that we see around the world, especially in Africa, that are still affecting us today. Let's see the results, out of all these problems. These are just the quick results of the problems. We see a frustrated youth and citizens. We've seen a rise in crime and civil protests and civil unrest. We've seen business closure because of the economy. Now that the economy is sort of really not in a good state because of COVID and other pandemics, businesses have closed down. That means less employment, and that in a nutshell results into the economy not being stable enough. So our economies are not growing, and that means not good for the future. But I always believe there's always been a solution. And this slide speaks directly to what I think is the solution. I think the solution to all the problems that we have in the world, I think social entrepreneurship could address each and every one of them. And it can address it by doing key certain things. So I know some of you guys might have a different perspective of what social entrepreneurship is, but let me just give it to you a brief and basic explanation. Social entrepreneurship are entrepreneurs that start businesses with a motive cause in order to change society or solve a particular problem in society. And they start this by starting social enterprises. So let's look at what is a social enterprise. A social enterprise is a cause-driven business which in its primary objective is to improve socio-economic problems in our society and serve a common good by creating or using a viable business model in order to grow and expand its impact. What does this mean? That means you can become the Superman of this world by solving a particular problem that we see in our society and still make money and still grow and be able to upscale your impact. And I believe this is possible, and I've seen it with my journey and my business. So I think social entrepreneurship is really a great step moving forward in changing and solving some of the problems that we see in society. What are the 4 key elements when one looks at starting a business or starting a social enterprise? There are 4 key elements that one needs to look at. So if there's any, for all the young people that are watching, young and old, who want to start businesses that serve the community, these are the 4 key elements one needs to look at. First, it needs to be a cause-driven business. There needs to be a purpose of why you're starting that business. Secondly, that business needs to solve a particular problem. So there needs to be some kind of problem that you've identified in your community and you are now trying to solve it. How are you trying to solve it? By using a viable business model that works, which is the third key element, by using a viable business model that works where you in exchange value for money. Because when building a viable business model, it allows you to grow your impact from servicing one person to 2 to 3 to 5 to 20 to 50 to hundreds of people. And last but not least, a positive impact on the results.
Apologies for interrupting you, but we've not been enjoying the benefit of your awesome slides. So we're going to need to make a few technical adjustments just to make sure that we don't lose the value of the slides, because I've seen them and I know they're good. So we're going to need you to reshare for Hendrik so that he can put them back on screen.
Okay. Do I share my screen or do I share for Hendrik?
Just share for Hendrik. He will sort out the rest of the technical details.
I share the screen. There we go. Share.
Thanks, Sizwe.
Okay. So apologies, guys, about that. So which now brings us into the core of the discussion today. So the first part of the presentation was just to highlight what can we do in order to solve these problems. So what can we do in order to make sure that, or what can one do in order to understand what do they need to start a business. So I then started a business called Iyeza Help, and as Omer puts it, the business was started from a bicycle courier company, and it was started from a cause of addressing access to healthcare. So I'm going to take you through the background of my journey and how the business started and what was the need. So let's quickly have a run at it. So what is our vision and our mission at Iyeza Help? So our vision is very clear. Our vision revolves around health system strengthening through improving access to treatment for more beneficiaries and communities through the use of digital health logistics. And that is why in our slogan strictly highlights your health at your doorstep, because we try and bring access and improve access to treatment for patients and for other communities in order to give them a seamless and convenient service that allows them to access treatment at a seamless way. So this is our vision, this is what we live by, and this is our motto. Let's have a look at where Iyeza business comes from, or where did the idea come from. So the idea came from a social economic problem. So in South Africa is divided into two. So there are two elements in public health, in healthcare. There's the public sector, then there's the private sector. So the public sector, it's got its own disadvantages and advantages. The private sector, it's got its own advantages and disadvantages. But let's look at the public sector. The public sector, this is free healthcare for all. It's more accessible because every community has a facility that is close to it. But if you look at some of the disadvantage of public healthcare, it's overburdened, it has less resources and less human resources, and the overcrowding at these public facilities people crowd because of really large numbers. Let's take a look at the private healthcare. It's got all the resources, it's got all the money, it's got all the human resources, but the disadvantage is that not everyone can afford it because it's expensive. So these are the two differences between these sectors. But as I was collecting chronic medication for my grandma, I picked up these key problems. I picked up one, that the clinics were overcrowded and they were overburdened. But I also picked up that there's a long waiting times in these clinics in order to get your medication. So people arrive early in the morning, and they leave late in the afternoon. And I couldn't understand what was the cause for all these waiting hours. I then started interrogating into the pharmacy staff, and I spoke to them. And when I found out that not only people are not coming to the facility, but also there's been a huge gap in terms of non-collections. So there's been an increase in non-collections from 5% to 20%. That means more people are now not collecting their medication. And that will automatically mean that there won't be adherence on the treatment. So because if you're not collecting your medication, that means you're not taking it. And when you're not taking it, that means you're not adhering it. So this is where this was the common problem that I looked at, that I experienced within the public health care. And what was the solution to it? So the solution was a bicycle courier company that focuses on collecting chronic medication parcels from these public clinics and deliver them directly to the patient's doorstep. So the model was geared and sort of really motive, or the purpose of the solution was to say, how do we alleviate the burden from the public facility as well as the burden from the patient side? And how do we join these two by offering a bicycle courier service that makes sure that people get their treatment on time and take these life-saving drugs? So what did we do? So we did some research. We looked at we did some research in the clinic. We looked at a couple of questions. We went on the ground. We asked people about it, and people were telling us that they would love, to sort of their medication get picked up. And we also found out, we did a demand research on it to say, if people had this service, how would they like it? Would they use it? And how many times do they collect on a monthly basis? and we found some staggering results. 90% of them said they would be interested in using the service because it would give them sort of more relief to do other things. For other people who are working, it would give them time to go to work while making sure that their life-saving medication gets delivered. On the other hand, we also discovered that most people collect once or twice. So over 75% of these people will collect once, and over 14% will collect twice a month. So by understanding that, we could figure out how can we operationally make our model work within our society. We went to the Department of Health, we asked for a pilot. This is just an approval letter to show that when we started doing the pilot, they gave us an endorsement to say, you guys can go in and do this home delivery method. It's because they saw the vision and they saw the impact it could have on increasing access to treatment and access to care. So fast forward, we started the idea, things went well, we grew the business. I remember I started off with my grandparents, and later on, as I was doing interviews, more people started saying, Sizwe, we want you to deliver our medication. First, then I didn't have a bike. I used to walk to some of my clients, and I remember I had 15 clients, and I used to walk to some of them. And my first bike actually came from a competition I won at UCT. So I won a business competition. So while I was studying, I was trying to start my business. So I was studying business studies at UCT, and I was just trying to start my business. And there was a competition called the Valspar Prize competition. So this prize was given to the best student who didn't only do well academically, but also showed great courage and great results in trying to start a business. And that was my first prize. So I won first prize there, and I won my first 10,000 Rand. And that's why I bought my first bike. I did my logo, I did the branding, did the pamphlets, and things looked so good. So, and then I bought 2 more bikes, and then I started including 2 guys. But fast forward the time, Iyeza now is a fully fledged health logistics company that delivers medication on a monthly basis to over 10,000 people around Cape Town. And we're doing this by creating employment for young people with basic skills. So we're currently employing 16 staff members. This includes our drivers, our tech team, as well as our administrative team, as well as our marketing team that's on the clinic, on the ground, speaking to people and recruiting more people. And all of this is geared around developing a specialized chronic medication delivery service around the Western Cape. And we've now also integrated digital technology onto our platforms. So we're now making it easier and seamless for Iyeza Health patients to link with doctors, clinics, and hospital in order to come up with a seamless service for them. So let's move to the next slide. So we then talked about digital innovation and digital introduction. So at first, the business was just ran on paper. So we used to write down the people's names, we used to write down the people's surnames, and all the patient's clinical data. Now the business has improved. We have our own data management system where we load the patients and we can keep the patient's data safe, because this is the clinical data that we capture, that we use in order to collect the patient's scripts as well as their medication. So this is how the app looks. So the app has a login, there's a dashboard, how many patients, it has a client management, we can load clients' clinical data. And this is the patient side of the app. So after loading the patient's details, we now load the collection dates of the patient. And the patient can also see on their side how many dates do they have for collection, and when are the dates for collection, and what is their status of their collection dates. So they can also keep track of their collection dates. They can also keep track of their accounts because they pay for the service. So the service is a payment service, which you pay per delivery. So they can keep track of the accounts of the accounts and deliveries. We then have the rider app. So the rider app, this is when the driver's making the delivery. So you go into the app, the driver makes the delivery, goes into the app, checks if it's the right patient, and most importantly, checks if the temperature is correct. So medication is a very sensitive product, so it has to be kept within a certain amount of temperature. Like for instance, insulin. Insulin needs to be kept between 2 to 8 degrees. So we've developed a cooler box that allows us to keep the medication within the regulated temperature. So when the driver gets to the patient, takes out the thermometer, opens the box, takes out the digital thermometer, reads the temperature, and punches in the temperature. If the temperature is okay, the app will notify that it will move to the next stage, which is the capturing of the signature. The patient signs on the app, and then the signature is captured. Moving to the next one. So the first phase of the business was just around the first element, solving the problem. So as you can see, we've discussed on how, solving the problem and what is the problem that I was solving in my community. And the next element is how do we then build a viable business model, or how did we as Iyeza build a viable business model? So we looked at 3 key elements. So we looked at contracts with public sector and government and private sector. We looked at e-commerce sites and including digital technology. And we also looked at building pharmacies to be able to sell and dispense these drugs. So let's take a look at building a viable business model, because it's one thing solving a problem, but it's another building a viable business model that is connected to solving the problem. So let's look at the first one. So we then had a contract with government. So we went in, we bidded for government contracts. We then had a contract with government, and the contract then obviously is around bulk distribution of stock. This is one of our vehicles. That's a couple of our staff members. These are the guys that are on the road every day delivering these life-changing drugs, at clinics. So we service 69 clinics around the Cape Town perimeter. So we're now servicing all of those 69 clinics all the way from St. Lawrence Pass until Kwalanga Township. So how the model works, we basically pick up these bulk distribution parcels, and we deliver them directly to clinics using our fleet of trucks and vehicles. So this is our biggest revenue making model. Because it's bulk, it allows us to deliver more parcels at a designated point. Let's look at the next one in terms of increasing our business model. So these are just some of the clinics and the territories that we cover in terms of delivering medication. So our next viable business model that we've integrated in our site is digital technology. So where we combine e-commerce sites with dispensing. So we've got 3 sites on our platform. The one is called Pill Squad. The second one is called HIV self-testing, and the third one is called Dalmed. So I'll just quickly take you through them. So Pill Squad is a women's contraceptive platform. So you can go online, go into www.pillsquad.co.za, order your contraceptives and get it delivered to you on a monthly basis at your doorstep. So this is a very nice platform because I like it. It gives women, a chance to sort of say, how can I get my contraceptives that I need on a monthly basis, that I take on a daily basis, get it delivered to my doorstep. It makes it seamless because they don't have to source the products. We do the sourcing of the medication and we take it and we deliver to them. So it doesn't matter what product they're on, we'll do that sourcing as a pharmacy and we'll deliver directly to them. And it's very seamless. You go onto the website, register, create an account, upload your prescription outside, make the payment, and boom, we then deliver to you. So this is a national platform. So this applies to anyone that is in Cape Town or even outside of Cape Town, Johannesburg, Durban, Eastern Cape. This allows us to reach clients on a national scale. Let's get the second one, HIV self-testing. So HIV self-testing is a new model in South Africa. It was approved 3-4 years back. So what HIV self-testing is basically it's the ability for you to order a test kit, a rapid test kit, and screen yourself at the comfort of your home. So we've also taken this initiative. So we've got a partnership with a company from London called Atoma Diagnostics. So they manufacture the rapid test kit, gets delivered in South Africa at our warehouse, gets packaging, gets checked, and then we then take it to retail and sell it. So this is how the online site looks. So you can go online on www.hivselftesting.co.za. order the test kit, get it delivered to you, watch the video online, get some brief information about counseling. But it also, if you look closely, it also has a HIV care near you slot. So you can go onto the slot, get care near you, visit the closest clinic, visit the closest doctor in order for you to be able to receive care and treatment going on forward. So, but we're also on retail. So we just didn't take it online. We also took it to retail, and we partnered with the 4 biggest retail companies in the country. So you can go into Pick and Pay, at any Pick and Pay around the country. You can find it on the shelf. That is our product, the eye test. So you can find it on any Pick and Pay. You can find it on Dis-Chem shelves at 170 pharmacies around the country. You can go to any of your Alpha Farm stores. You can find that around 900 pharmacies nationwide. And our biggest buyer, you can go to Clicks, and you can still find it at any Click store. And Clicks obviously is our biggest buyer because of the number of stores that they have, with more than 470 stores nationwide. So this is just one of the ways we've used in order to generate money and build a viable business model around the country. So this is HIV self-testing. Let's move to the next one. The next one is called Dalmed. So Dalmed is, the two are more sort of prescription drugs. Dalmed is an OTC online shop. So just like any OTC online shop that you can buy clothes, perfumes, cosmetics, this one is an online store that allows you to buy over-the-counter medication without needing a prescription. So let's say you get a flu and it's during COVID, lockdown, level 5. You know, you want to go out and get yourself, you know, some cough syrup, some flu drugs. Well, here's a platform that we've built for you. It's very easy and seamless. You go into the platform, www.dalmed.co.za. You log in, you create an account, you choose the drugs that you want to, or the medication that you want to deliver. You know, we've got pictures, we've got different ranges of medication. And once that is done, it will go onto, it will take you directly to our website, our Iyeza logistics site, where you can pin in your point and your address, make the payment, and we will deliver to you. So this is another way of trying to reach clients and trying to reach patients without patients going to pharmacies. Because now that we're on level 4 lockdown, and maybe some other countries are on level 5, it becomes difficult for people to move around the country. But having apps and e-commerce sites like Dalmed makes it seamless for people to order their OTC medication online. So all these components that we've built around online are contributing to improving access, whether it's OTC medication or prescription medication or hormonal contraceptive medication. Our goal revolves around one thing: how do we improve access to care and treatment for people in South Africa? This is just the team that delivers, our HIV self-testing. This is our local team that delivers in our community. So if you're in Cape Town and you order, one of our fleet guys will come through for the delivery. You know, we've grown from a bike to a scooter, from a scooter to a bakkie, and even eventually to trucks. So we've tried and grown our fleet as demand grows. So we've also tried and grown our fleet in terms of reaching people in our communities. So this is very motivating, because I remember when I started with a bike, and I used to tell some of my friends that, you know, one day growing up, I actually want to own a fleet, of vehicles, and it all seemed like a far-fetched dream, but because I believed in my dream and I believed I could make this, and I could see the need in the community, and I kept on persisting and pushing, because I could see that this is a big need in our community, and if I can address this need in conjunction with building a viable business model, I can make this work and I can achieve my goal of having a fleet of vehicles. So what did I do? Just to sort of summarize it, what did I do? There's simply 4 key things I did to expand the model and build a feasible growing model. 1, I diversified the revenue. So I looked at different revenue avenues, from contracts to e-commerce sites, to delivery services. offering delivery services to other external companies that manufacture medication. The second point I did was I differentiated some of my products. So I built different products and I started distributing different products, and that had an increase in our revenue. The third point that I did is was I started increasing the capacity. So that's when we started acquiring our trucks, our fleet of vehicles, in order to be able, or in order to enable us to render bigger services and expand our reach within the supply chain and logistics model within the healthcare spectrum. And lastly, we started going up the value chain of the business, where we built our own pharmacy and we dispense from our own pharmacy, and we're now looking at becoming a pharmaceutical wholesaler, where we've got our own warehouse platform at Airport Industrial. This will allow us to obviously store drugs on a larger scale and be able to grow or go up the value chain in the supply chain. So this is basically what I've done in order to build a viable or a feasible business model, and it's been good. These have been the staggering results. For the past 5 to 6 or to 7 years. We've seen the model, grow from the time we started in 2015. We've had a significant growth. And obviously with business, with the hockey stick phase, that's when we were still building capacity, and eventually our gross margin started increasing, and now we've now break even, and we are now looking at increasing our profit margin, and that allows us to grow, because we've now settled and set up our costs and set up our infrastructure development, so that now we can grow and start making profits. So these have been really good results for the past 7 years, and we're very excited moving forward in growing into other parts of the country. Eastern Cape, we're looking at Joburg, which is predominantly our next move, Johannesburg, because we've been having a lot of demand around Joburg clients saying we also want the service in Johannesburg. We're looking at Durban and many others. And last point that one needs to look at, which we're tackling, is the impact. So people ask me, how are you solving impact? How are you creating, we're creating jobs, we're strengthening healthcare systems, and we're also empowering business development within our society. These are just some of the awards that Ome was mentioning and that we've won. That's the Minister of Health, Nama French, when we're opening our pharmacies. I've done some TED Talks and around building local business models at the University of Western Cape and at UCT. I've won, some numerous awards and being voted as the most promising or the emerging entrepreneur of the year in the country, and that was in 2017. And we've also won the best entrepreneurship, social entrepreneur in 2019 under the Social Business Awards, which is the Community Chest Social Business Awards. So we've done really good in terms of our PR and getting, the business winning really good awards around the country. Leaving it there, guys. I think I've said as much as I can, and thank you very much. And I hope it was insightful. And if there's any questions, and the floor is open.
Thank you so much, Sizwe. That was a fantastic presentation for many reasons for me. There were things that I particularly related to and that I was grateful that you spoke about. So as we're having conversations with young entrepreneurs, myself included, one of the things that we think is very important to emphasize for African entrepreneurs is the importance of thinking about scaling your business, and what is that going to look like, and what are the tools and the strategies that you can use to take your business from an SME that's located, within your specific geographic area with very small reach, very small access to customers, and then finding ways to replicate that business model and make it, able to scale and reach other parts of the country. So I was very excited to hear about how Iyeza Health has moved from one bicycle, just servicing Kailita, to one that can now reach people all across South Africa. That's really, really important as far as I'm concerned as a conversation to have, because so many businesses cannot move beyond that point of, being able to service customers that are right in front of them, that they can see and immediately interact with within their communities. And you would agree with me that that's one of the reasons why so many businesses don't make it past the 2-year mark or the 5-year mark, because that level of income can sustain you on a small level, but it doesn't,
Yes.
make you the kind of business that really, really makes impact. So for us, this conversation with you cannot end here. We're going to push it forward because we feel like we need to continue hammering that into the minds of African entrepreneurs so that they can continue to think about it as they build their businesses. How do they scale? What are the things they need to think about? How do they begin to factor in all of those things like you did, bringing in e-commerce, using tech, building an app, looking at all the new innovations within the health system, like HIV self-testing, and making sure that you integrated it into your business in order to expand your reach. So for me, that was a very wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for taking the time to put it together and present it to us. We have a number of questions to ask, that we've put together based generally off the concept of entrepreneurship, of building on the African continent, and of dealing with big problems like unemployment. In recent times, we've seen what having such a large number of people unemployed can mean. We're currently dealing with serious unrest in South Africa. It's luckily beginning to wind down a little bit now, but it's a matter of stress for quite a number of us because we're thinking, this shouldn't be happening. People should have jobs. They shouldn't feel like, so helpless and so stressed that they find it difficult to just live lives that feel fulfilling. So these conversations for us are very, very important. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. So the very first question we're going to ask you, and this came from a member of my team. He wanted to know, it's very easy to have an idea and say, I want to start a business. But one of the most difficult hurdles is finding those first set of customers that trust you enough to give you their business. And in this case, you're dealing with, people's life-saving medication. So how did you start those conversations? How did you convince those customers that you were the right person and that they should pay you for the service? Because it's one thing to be able to provide a service. It's another thing for people to agree to give you money to provide the service.
I know. Oh, thank you, Omar. It was really difficult. It was really difficult because the first customer to give me money, actually, if I can just quickly share the story. So the first person who actually gave me, who was willing to give me money, was a gentleman while I was doing the research at the clinic. So I had my book, I had my pen and paper. I was asking people about the service, what would they do if they had the service. And there was a gentleman who said to me, can you do this for me next month? And I was shocked. And he even said to me, if you can collect my medication for me, because the reason he said that, he said, if you can collect my medication for me and deliver it directly to my doorstep, I'm even willing to pay you because I am supposed to be at work and I'm here waiting in these queues and I'm still going to wait for these long hours. But if you can alleviate that from me, I'm willing to compensate you for that. And that for me proved to me that the idea has value enough for someone else to want to pay money for it. So he gave me the confidence to say, I think this can be a really good business, because everyone was interested in the service, but he said, because I'm taking my time off work, I'm willing to pay you to be here and collect my medication for me, and I'll pay you for it because I've got other commitments that are important that I need to do. So, but my first customer obviously came from, my grandma wasn't the customer, but there were other older people in the community, which she shared to them as to what I was doing, and they then started saying, we want the service, and then I started like that. So I got my first customer through my grandparents. So my grandparents are very popular in the community. So she was a very popular lady. She was very well known, and I think she's got the same energy as me. And so she was very vocal. So she used to speak to people in the community. And when I started telling about what I'm trying to do, and she started going into the community and speaking to people and telling me, you can go and speak to that lady, you can go and speak to that lady. We go to the same clinic with that lady. And then I started approaching those clients. and then eventually I started, getting my first customers. Hi, Omer.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, great.
We'll move to the next question. That's fine.
Yes. So the question about customers is very important to us for many reasons. Because even beyond getting the first, and that's why we put an S behind the customer, because getting the first customer, you get the first customer and you feel like, yay, this is proof of concept. Somebody's gonna pay me for this thing. But then you have that period sometimes where you have your first 2, 3, 4 customers and then it dies down. Did you ever experience that? That lag in customers that made you wonder if this was actually going to work?
Well, I have. I did get actually actually the word that I'm trying to use is a very basic word. Keeping customers is
Mm,
actually very difficult. So getting one is easy, but keeping the customer is very difficult because that means you have to consistently provide a service that outmatches their expectations.
mm.
So, and imagine having a customer for more than 2 years. That means every single time you serve them, you have to give them the best service so that they stay with you. And that's so I've had that phase where I've had customers coming in and I've had a dying moment to say, now I'm not getting any customers. But then what happened is that's where innovation and marketing comes in. So what I did is we started injecting more money on marketing. We started including promotions where we attract more customers. So promotional activities where we went into competitions and start incentivizing people to bring new customers as
Oh,
well. So it was difficult, but then we managed to include marketing into the. And I think that's the importance of marketing is that without marketing, you can't attract new customers. And that's what I've seen is that yes, I had customers that I got in from my grandparents, but now I needed new customers. So I had to go deep into the budget, invest in marketing, invest in promotions, invest in advertising, invest in communication so that I try and get new customers. But also, I then started innovating, bringing in new products, bringing in tech that makes it easier for people to access me. Instead of going to the customer physically, I now have e-commerce sites and digital technology that allows me to interact with customers, with a wide range of customers. So investing in marketing was the biggest one that made me keep and create more customers, but also the innovation and integration of technology allowed me to attract more customers.
all right. So I've heard a lot in your answer. First making sure that you leverage off social capital with your grandparents and their network, and not being ashamed yourself to walk up to people and say, "This is my service," and ask them to patronize you. And I think that level of courage and bravery is very important at the beginning of a business. Being able to go out yourself and say, "Look at me, look at what I'm doing, and look at how it's going to work and how it's going to work for you." And then, the importance of marketing, like you said, and innovating. So many wonderful answers and so many nuggets in that particular response that you've given us. So the next question on our list is, what do you think is the most important skill for a young entrepreneur to cultivate and develop? For people who maybe want to start a business, for people who have already started a business, but within those early years, that early stage of being a business owner, what do you think is the one thing that a business owner must make sure that they are consistently nurturing within themselves? Is right
Okay,
there?
thank you very much. Oh man, I think the one skill an entrepreneur needs to have is sales. That's the most important skill because if you can't sell, that means you can't prove to people that your product is worthy or it's got enough value for them to pay for money for it. And so, as an entrepreneur, you're always going to sell in your business. Whether you're an executive sales manager, where you're a CEO who's responsible for growing, getting new contracts in the business, or whether you're just a sales guy on the floor, sales are always going to be there and you're always going to need to sell. Because imagine going to someone and you can't sell your idea to them. How do you expect them to buy it from you? So I think the most important skill as a young entrepreneur.
Oh, it seems we're losing Sizwe a little bit just there. But it's very important to focus on what he's mentioning about sales, because this is one skill that is so scary for a lot of people. Quite a number of people say, I don't do sales. I've actually, in my lifetime, said to someone, I don't do sales. I don't like to walk up to people and say, buy this thing from me, because it requires quite a lot of courage, quite a lot of confidence, and the ability to deal with rejection. Because sometimes people would say to you, I'm not buying or I'm not interested. And that can be so devastating if you haven't built up your capacity to handle, some kinds of situations. But as an entrepreneur, it's a matter of courage. It's important. It's what's going to keep you afloat as a business owner. The courage to walk up to people, the courage to say, I have this product. It's going to work for you. It's going to make your life better. And you should buy it from me. And building off of that conversation, that's where you have to sit down and ask yourself, what is your value proposition? What is your unique selling proposition as a business owner? And I'm sharing that because for me, that was a turning point in finding out how to sell myself and how to sell whatever it is that I want people to buy. Is understanding what is unique, what is special about whatever it is that I'm selling. Mostly because assuming that people would buy something just because you want them to is a is a failing proposition. They're going to buy it because it's useful for them. They're going to buy it because it can change their lives. They're going to buy it because it has value for the things that they need. It fulfills a need in their life. It fulfills a requirement in their life. That's why people would buy things from you. So understanding the unique selling proposition, the unique value proposition, or whatever it is you want to sell, is the turning point for someone who says to themselves, I cannot sell. You can sell. If you believe in whatever it is that you're selling, you can sell. And I'm sure that Sizwe would agree with me, that selling
Yes,
is really about
yes.
believing in your product.
Yes, definitely. Sounds is very important. I think it is very important from a because that's how you introduce your product to people. That's how you explain your product to people. That's how you explain the benefits of your product. That's how you make somebody believe that the product has value enough for them to pay for it. And I think it's the first step, and it's one of the most important skills that an entrepreneur needs to have.
All right. So moving on to the next question that we have. When you started to build your team, what were your biggest considerations?
Okay, this is a big question. This is a big question. So my biggest considerations were the fact that okay, so as I was building my business, I looked at three things. I looked at three things when considering building this business. So the first one was developed around how do we. So the first one was developed how do we operationally make the model work. That's the first thing. Structure. So you need to include structure into your business. So because a business without structure is it won't work. Basically, it won't work. It won't work. It won't grow in the future. So the first thing you need to instill is structure. So all the business elements that I learned from school, I started including them. I needed to have a brand. I needed to have a name. I needed to register the company. I needed to get the structure of the company. Is it going to be a private company? Is it going to be an NPO? And I needed to get that first structured. Um, so that as I'm growing and I'm building the business, I need to understand that when other people come in or I employ other people, there needs to be structure within the spectrum. There needs to be an organogram that strictly states who does what, who's responsible for what in a team. So all those things. So structure is very important. That's the first thing in a business because a business can never run and grow if it doesn't have structure. The second element I looked at was when I started building my business and my team was skills that complemented sort of that complemented the need in the business. So So if I look at, for example, my current logistics manager was was a logistics manager in another company, and he had experience in logistics management, which I never had. So I've experience in business and I studied business, but he studied logistics management and supply chain. So when I brought him on board as a team, the skills needed to match what I needed in the business. Because I knew that I wasn't an expert in this particular industry. So I wanted to bring in somebody with a skill set and an expertise that can fulfill this particular role in the business. So it's one thing just employing people, but it's another when you employ people around the skill sets that needs to complement me as the founder as well as the business in a whole. I started including my there's another employee, Kagiso. He does quality assurance and making sure that everything, Carl is our head of pharmacy. So everything that goes out is checked by a proper pharmacist who has the necessary skills, has the pharmacy degree. He's got the necessary licenses and the authority to do that. Some of our drivers were drivers informally in other companies before, and then we started employing them. So the second thing I looked at was attracting the skill that is needed to complement me as well as the business that is needed. So it's one thing trying to create employment, but it's another making sure that you get the right people in the business. Because you can have 50 people that actually don't add value in the business because you're just employing. But if you employ the right people, you can have 10 people in the business that make a huge difference in your business. So it's all about the right people and the right skill set.
Absolutely. So yeah, reiterating the point that you made is finding people who complement each other in terms of skill sets and making sure that you're identifying which skill set need to be brought into your business. Thank you for that, Sizwe. The next question is about challenges. So there must have been really, really painful days while you built and while you still continue to build. So when you look back, what were just off the top of your head, I deliberately didn't want you to see these questions before today because I wanted you to just knee-jerk give me the reaction. When you think about it, what is the craziest thing, the most painful day that you've had with Iyeza Health?
Well, there's many of them. There's many of them, and I think, but one of the biggest one was, I remember when I was starting the company. So I was at the clinic. I was speaking to people, and I started getting my couple of 5-10 clients. Those first 5-10 clients, and they all gave me their clinic information. I went to the clinic and I started collecting the medication. But the pharmacist at the clinic was shocked because he was stunned to say, "But why are you here with 5 different clinic cards, with 5 different clinic information?" And then I had to come up with some kind of explanation. So I said, "No, one is for my grandma, one is for my aunt, one is for the lady who lives next door." I had to come up with some explanation, but the pharmacist eventually gave it to me. I then took the meds. I didn't have a bike then. Then I walked and I delivered them. The next week, I came with almost 15 clinic cards. And again, the gentleman was like, "No, last week you came with 5. Today you came with 15. The first 5, you said they were your family members. Now we're coming with 15. What's the story?" So he thought I was actually taking the drugs, using people's clinical information, and taking the drugs and the medication and selling them outside unlawfully. They called in the cops, they called in the police. The police were there. I had to explain to myself and I had to explain to them what I was trying to achieve. So it was one of those scary moments because now I was getting arrested. I was just about to get arrested for doing something, but they didn't know that I was piloting an idea of collecting chronic medication for people. I can imagine the police were here, we were put in an office, of the authority, the pharmacy manager was here, the clinic facility manager was here, everybody was like, what's going on? Where are you taking these drugs? Prove to us that you're not selling these. I'm not, I had to prove to them that I wasn't a drug dealer. And so they thought I was a drug dealer. I was taking these drugs from the clinic and dealing with them somewhere illegally outside of the clinic. So that was the toughest challenge, because I've now had to convince them to say, this is what I'm doing. This is how it's going to benefit the clinic, and this is how it's going to benefit society in terms of access to treatment, and this is how it's going to benefit society through employment. And eventually, after a couple of hours of explaining to them, they gave me a warning to say that I need to present a consent form from the patients to say that they've given me consent to collect their medication. And I think that's where I started including things like consent forms, contractual agreements with patients. But that was the worst challenge. I felt like I was going to get arrested for trying an idea that today is a national business. I still laugh when I think about it, but I was almost arrested.
Sounds absolutely crazy. But it is a message I think that other entrepreneurs would benefit from, mostly because sometimes we jump in head first without thinking, what are the things we need to consider? What are the compliance implications of this business I want to go into? What should I be stressed about? What should I be bothered about in terms of what the legal ramifications are? And sometimes it's a bit difficult to put all that in place, especially when you're just testing the MVP. But it's good to know. Especially if there are just little ways that we can prevent things like this from happening. But some lessons you will learn by doing. I'm really happy that did not put an end to your dream. It would have been sad to not have present day Iyeza Health. But yeah, that does sound really, 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 really stressful. So here's a question that comes out when people think about businesses that serve the community, because people are thinking automatically, if you're serving the community, then it's automatically a non-profit. It's not to make money. And this is why I wanted this question here, because for me, I wanted to draw that line to say you can serve the community while still building a viable business. But I think it would be better if the breakdown of this question comes from you. So do you believe that people can make real profit even though their business is a social enterprise?
Yes, definitely. I think social enterprises, you're 100% correct. Social enterprises have been really sort of, because people don't have a clear definition of what they are, and it's kind of a new term, so people don't have a clear definition of what they are. So they've kind of linked it to say, if you're serving the community, it must be solely an NPO or an NGO, because you're rendering a service that civil society needs. But you also want to make money to sustain yourself as well as grow the entity. And definitely with social enterprises, people can. Why? Because social enterprises are nothing more than businesses. So it's registered as a full private business. It's registered. So in fact, there's two ways to do this. You can do this as a hybrid model, or you can do this as a full profit business. But I'll start with the full profit business. So for example, Iyeza Health. Iyeza Health is registered as a full profit business. It's a full profit business. There's two of us. It's me and my partner. And the fact that it serves a good cause in community doesn't mean that it can't make money. Because what happens is, when you're packaging your idea, or when you're packaging your service that you service in the community, you need to package it in a way that people see value in your service or your product, that they're willing to pay for it. Remember, the reason why people buy into ideas is not just to buy in it, it's to buy in it because it adds a particular value to their lives. So if you can be able to highlight the value in people's, or highlight the value in an idea, that allows people to see that by paying this much for this value, I can actually get value for my money. So what I think what most entrepreneurs do is they go in with the mentality of saying, I'm offering this as a free service, assuming that people won't be able to pay for it. And that's why I did research before I started my business. I went in and I did a demand study. So so that because the demand study would tell you who's willing to use the service, how much are they willing to pay, and what value do they see in the service. So I think most people, what they do is they go for the NPO because of the service that they're rendering or the product that they're giving to society. They automatically assume or think that people can't pay for it. But actually, maybe a person can pay for it. It's just a matter of prioritizing values. So yes, full profit business can make profit and still serve a common cause, like Iyeza Health. We're trying to improve access to treatment and care while we're still making money, and those two can still join and still create a profitable business that allows it to grow and expand. The second one that they can use is called a hybrid model. So a hybrid model is a combination of an NPO and a private company. So how does this work? So I'll make an example. So you build an NPO that does research study in healthcare, and this goes out into the community, gets donations, goes out into the community, does a study of what the community needs in terms of healthcare, and collects the study, gets the money, goes into the ground, collects the study, gives out all the certain key needs that the community needs. But out of that study and the data that they're receiving, they then build a private company on the side that actually manufactures products that are related to the things that they need. So let's make an example. Let me make another clear example. Let's say Thriving Africa donates solar panels or solar lights for electricity in communities where there's no electricity. Then they build a company. So that's the NPO. Then they build a company that manufactures those as well as maintains those. So if you've given somebody the stove or the solar stove or the solar lights, they then eventually have to, when they're going to renew it, they then have to buy certain components from you. So the private company services the NPO because the patient would then maybe to go and need to buy parts for the stove or buy some of the parts for the lights that they need to sort of renew. Even though the light is free from solar and it was given free, but keeping it working and the technology that it uses, that can be bought from the private company. So I don't know if the examples is clear, but
it is. Thank you very much for that. So I think it's very convincing that people can build businesses that serve community and serve society and still make money. We're running out of time, so we're probably just going to run through the last question, even though I think that this is very important. This is one of the linchpins of this conversation, as far as I've seen. We're just going to spend 2 minutes just looking at this. As our continent continues to struggle with unemployment and fight this battle consistently, how do we think that governments can work harder to support young businesses?
So, okay, so this is a very close issue to my heart. This topic is very and definitely you're right. It's the biggest problem we're experiencing in Africa. I think there are numerous ways that government can support small businesses. So just to quickly run through it. One, I think government needs to, before they even start putting money in all the other things, one, they need to create a country or policies in a country that allows favorable trade for businesses, or that makes it easier for businesses to trade or even to start smaller businesses. So I'll make an example in South Africa. In the healthcare space, it is a very highly regulated space. Yes, understanding, because you need certain licenses in order to go in. You need certain accreditations in order to go in. You need certain permissions, and that on its own, the red tape and the bureaucracy can prevent a lot of young people going into the healthcare space because of it's highly regulated. So
that is really important. That's very important.
Yeah. So government needs to make sure that while maintaining structure, they need to create a country with policies that allows people to start businesses. Let it be a free trade sort of market where there's no regulation in trading, there's no bureaucracy when it comes to gateway to entry, there's no red tape in order for somebody to start a particular business in a particular sector. I mean, all these red tapes can be in form of finance, can be in forms of laws and policies, can be in forms of networks and who you know. We've seen it in Africa. One of the biggest problems that I hate, all these political connections, who you know, and we need to create an environment that allows anyone walking down the street to be able to say, tomorrow I want to open up a business that does that grows food, freshly organic foods and farms. And that person needs to be able to do that. So the environment needs to allow them to do that. That's the first point. The second point is around business education. So business education, because we've got a low quality levels of education, predominantly in the African countries, we need more business incubation and business knowledge. And I think that's why the first world is really very much ahead of us when it comes to education. And so we need to strengthen our education system, because education system is the foundation of anything. If we can teach people the basics of understanding and how to start and grow a business, I think then we wouldn't rely, or we wouldn't have more businesses closing down. As you mentioned before, business was not even hitting the 5-year mark or the 3-year mark. Where did it go wrong? Did the owner have knowledge of finance management? Did the owner have knowledge of marketing? Did he understand what he needed in his business? Did he have the knowledge to see and spot and be able to grow his business? And that's where business knowledge comes in, and that falls part of education. I think that is a very important tool. And then lastly, you need access to finance. You might have the great idea, you might have the business knowledge, but if you don't have access to finance, then it becomes very difficult for you to start a business. So I think if government looks at these 3 components, make sure that it creates policies and an environment that allows people and young people to start businesses, gets the necessary business education into schools. I don't believe in business education starting in university. For me, I think entrepreneurship should start in high school. We start teaching young kids entrepreneurship in high school, so that when a child wants to become an engineer, he does not only want to become an engineer to work for a company. He goes into engineering knowing that he can become an entrepreneur and create a solar panel or solar regenerating energy to create electricity for his community. He can create really great things by using his engineering skills as well as his business skills. So, and then obviously they'll need money. So money is one of the biggest components. Most businesses fail because they lack funding, and most ideas fail because they lack funding, because there's nobody who believes in those ideas to be able to put money onto the platform. Because eventually, you have to prove the concept. You need resources, you need people, and all these things come with money. So government needs to look at 3 things: good environment,
funding,
education, and funding.
Yeah. And that's why one of the biggest things that we focus on our side is providing the business support, helping people be in that environment where they can collaborate with other people, find entrepreneurs who have made it, so that they can have conversations that are necessary, and they can, get around those hoops that are really scary, like the experience that you had at the beginning of your business. And then there's also the question of capacity. It's very close to our hearts as well. Building capacity for entrepreneurs. So from the audience, we've had a comment or 2. I'm just going to read out the one that we have just here. Retha Bileliania says, big ups to Iyeza Health for becoming a solution to our healthcare challenges. Very grateful to your dedicated pharmacy team for providing a great service. Oh, what a wonderful testimonial. I think it's absolutely lovely that people say that about your business. And I think that's where every entrepreneur is going. as they struggle through this process. Thank you so much, Sizwe, for taking the time to be with us today, for taking the time to do your slides, have these conversations, for being so honest, telling us all of the experiences that you've had, breaking down your business into bits so that we can see how the journey has been and how you've grown and how you've built. We will definitely be coming back for more conversations. So please be expecting to see my face in my emails. But I am super grateful. Do you have any final 1 minute word for those who are listening?
No, I would like to thank everybody who tuned in, and I would like to thank you and Thriving Africa for giving me this opportunity. It's obviously I would like I'm a person who likes to become or who likes being involved with the audience, but obviously because of COVID-19, we cannot engage, but we're using technology and we're adapting and we're using technology to share these thoughts. So I'm really grateful for you guys, to put me on an international platform that allows me to share my views with other people, around the globe. Because for me, that is a big thing, to be able to get recognized and share my thoughts with people around the globe. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here, Sizwe. Um, we're very glad to have you.
Thanks.
All right. Um, so before we go, we're just going to share this quick opportunity with everybody who is watching. If you know a young person who needs to learn how to build a business for themselves, we're giving out scholarships to a special course on building a business from scratch. We have the best coach, if I do say so myself, and we've taken the time to create this 5-week course. That we believe would help you if you are aspiring to start a business and you don't know where to start, or if you've already started a business and you're within that first month or first few years where it's also confusing and difficult. You don't need to get an MBA. There is knowledge for the taking. All you have to do is sign up to bit.ly/youth month course. If you've been looking at the rolling text at the bottom of the screen, we've been scrolling the short code to register for the course. Please register and join this course. It will be going live very soon, and it would last for 5 weeks. So if you want to take the course yourself, wonderful. And if you know somebody who needs to take the course, please go ahead. And if you'd like more details, please reach out to us. We have our social media on there at Thriving Africa on Twitter. We're also on LinkedIn at Thriving Africa. You can also send us an email at thriving.africa, that's Africa with a K, at gmail.com, and we'll respond to you as best we can. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're very grateful for your time. We don't take it for granted. Thriving Africa will be back almost every month going from now with new insights, with wonderful people like Sizwe, with information. So don't forget to follow us on social media so that you can get all of the information about when our courses are coming up, when our live streams are coming up, when things are about to happen to us, so that you would be a part of this journey with us, because we'd like to have you on this journey with us. Thank you so very much for your time. I see that we got a last minute question. Somebody was asking Sizwe what policies can be put in place to make entrepreneurship easier. We will try to make sure that we get that question from Sizwe. We get the answer from Sizwe and make it available to you. So thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic Mandela Day. And don't forget to put in your 67 minutes of service.